As we start this morning, may I say, as I very often do, that I am so grateful that we have this Open Door Center for Spiritual Living Community, where we come together to learn and to love and to put spiritual principle into action, where the rubber meets the road, where we recognize that when we live this spiritual teaching, not only do our lives change, the lives of folks around us will change, the world changes for the better. As Carol mentioned, we see the steps that we need to take to creating a world that is working better for every one of us. So I am always grateful to be here on a Sunday. I am grateful for each and every one of you, so thank you. If your life has indeed changed a little bit since you came to Open Door or found the Science of Mind or another New Thought type teaching, please let people know, because they need to. Within a very short radius of this area, I know that we have people who are not well, people who are needing things, people who believe the end is near, people who just have a lot of doom and gloom and pain in their lives. And you know, what we have here is a different perspective. It can change the way that we look at things, and what happens then. They change, they sure do. So yeah, so help me spread the word. And somewhere I've lost my little, there it is. So, okay. So for the last couple of weeks, we've been getting your input, your insight, your feelings, your ideas about what you like about our Sunday services, what kinds of things you would like to hear about on Sundays and participate in. And one of the big suggestions that I got from more than one person was, well, I'd like to hear more about prayer and what that really is here in Science of Mind, and what it means when we pray. What is it that we are doing? And so for the next several weeks, we're going to embody a discussion about prayer, about the elements of prayer as we see that here in Science of Mind, and also as other teachings, other spiritual understandings look at prayer as being. So, you know, that's where we're headed. One thing that is probably very different about our New Thought teachings, Open Door Center for Spiritual Living, Science of Mind, Unity, Divine Science, and things like that, from other mainstream spiritual and religious cultures, is not that we pray. That's a pretty common tenet of almost every religion, but how we pray and how we encourage people to be in prayer. So just as an idea, to get an idea, how many of you have a devoted time or a specific designated time when you sit in whatever spiritual practice it is that serves you, and perhaps include prayer in that? So yeah, most everybody does. Hopefully we'll be even using prayer even more as we move through this and gain a greater understanding of it. So as we look at prayer, though, there's one thing that becomes obvious, and that's really significantly true for us in Science of Mind, is that what we need to know about prayer has to start with what and where we are, what we believe about that one that most teachings call God. Now, when I say that word, God, what I want you to know about me is that something shifts. Because I'm still, after nearly 60 years on this planet, and many of them in deep relationship with the divine, okay, that word kicks off some uncomfortable stuff for me. What I want you to know on an even deeper level is that that's probably true of every single person that wears the title minister, pastor, reverend. We're the ones who lay awake at night going, really? What? I don't think so. Okay? We are, because that's basically who we are. Some of us might not be as brazen and obnoxious as I can tend to be about it, but trust me, we have a deep questioning. I think it was Meister Eckhart that said, I might be wrong about that said that he laid awake most nights pondering what God was really about. Okay? A lot of us don't like that term, that word. When I got married in 1987, I got married in a church. I hadn't been in a church for any of the normal reasons for decades, and I really did have this fear that the building might come down. I mean, I really was afraid of that. I could see that fear and think through it and, move myself through it, but I really was a little bit afraid. I had not been a good child, okay? So we know that a lot of us have some chafing around that word, and if you do, or if you're one of those, or even if you don't want to own it, it's totally okay. My encouragement is call it whatever you will. Let's look at the next slide if we could, Kathy. When I walked into 12-step recovery many, many years ago, I was told you aren't alone. A lot of us don't like that word very much either, okay? And so I was told, call it good orderly direction, okay? Just think of this as a positive force or a loving presence in your life. Call it spirit. Call it the greater yet to be. Michael Bernard Beckwith, who has the largest quasi-science of mind community in the world, talks on one of his CDs about having lots of issues around the word and the idea of God. And as he was more consciously stepping onto a spiritual path, he became aware that he understood that whatever it is, to have two attributes. One was love, the other one was intelligence. So in his work for many years, and even to this day, he refers to God as love, intelligence. If you choose to take our Foundations of Science of Mind class that will start here a little later in the summertime, one of the activities we will do together, a couple of the activities we will do together, one is to make a huge list of names for God. Another one is to make another huge list of attributes of God. It's really interesting because beneath what comes out in those titles and in those characteristics are our sometimes really prehistoric and frightened little concepts that we tend to carry of the divine. Ernest Holmes, founder of Science of Mind, had lots of names for God. If you've tried to read or read any of the Science of Mind text, you know that he hops all over the place with that. One of the terms that he uses is it, and another one is thing. And I have to say, I'm a child of the 60s. I grew up in front of a black and white television. That was my life for many years. How many of us? Yeah. When you hear about 12 or more hours of TV a week is going to rot your brain. I should be a vegetable, guys. I'm sorry. It was on from the minute we got up to the minute we went to bed, and I was almost always in front of it. Unless my dad had on the 6 o'clock news, okay? But when I think about it and thing, what comes to my mind the most is the Addams Family, okay? How many of you, besides Aunt Ruth, okay, just too young, you might have done it anyway, did that thing where you pulled all your hair over your eyes and put your sunglasses on your face, okay? That was it, actually. And the thing was the creepy little hand that came out of the box, okay, and did all kinds of weird things. I just know that Happy Holmes, that was his nickname, Happy Holmes, would have roared with laughter if he had lived long enough. Ernest died in 1960, so he probably never met Morticia and, Gomez? Okay. But he would have just busted a gut over it and a thing, because in his consciousness, in his awareness, he would have seen God in that hairy thing, it, okay, and in that creepy hand, just as much as we see it in Mother Teresa or the Dalai Lama or Pope Francis, okay? Again, in his writings, he used a lot of terminology, and I think Ernest did that for several reasons. One of those is that he really wanted the reader to get it. But guess what, guys? We can't put God in a box. We can't define what the divine is and name it and claim it and have it all clear. And at the point at which we think we have, oh baby, you better put on that seatbelt and get ready and hold on, because some things are going to shift in your world, okay? I think he also changed the names of what he referred to as God, as it, as thing, as the absolute, because he was incredibly well-read, and in becoming well-read and well-studied, what he recognized was that almost every one of us harbors some really archaic notions of what the divine is all about. Okay? Now, think about that. Most of us formed our ideas about God, or whatever you want to call it, our opinions, okay? And they are just that, opinions, at a very tender age. I grew up in a mainstream teaching, and from the time I remember, I was taken to church. When I started school, I actually went into a school affiliated with that church. Yeah, it was like 6 days a week, oh gosh. Okay, again, brain rot, I don't know really, but, children are incredibly wise, but it's also very easy to inoculate young people with fear. It's really easy to do that with all of us. One of my friends, one of my cohorts in this movement, tells me the story where in the home that she grew up in, the teaching of the rapture was prominent. Now in the rapture, you'll remember, this is the second coming of Christ. And at that time, all the believers will be lifted up to heaven, and the rest of, I'm going to say us, I don't know if you guys will be there, I'm pretty sure about where I would belong, okay? All the rest of us are going to be left here on the planet to suffer, lie fallow, and have, horrible, the rest of our lives experiences, okay? This person was so enamored of this as a child that after they went to bed, they would get up and go to the window and look to see if they saw Jesus coming. That just blows me away. Okay? It breaks my heart that we ever use anything like a teaching about the beloved that in any way imparts any fear, that in any way imparts any hurt or any doubt or any danger. Okay? The person would look out the window and then go back to bed and lay there shaking and crying that Jesus would come and they would be left here abandoned, that they weren't good enough. What I can tell you is this, that will never happen here, okay? Not ever. It makes me crazy to even think about it. Can you see the crazy? Okay. There's another reason, too, that sometimes our ideas about the divine are kind of skewed. If you were here last Sunday, we talked about Mother's Day. And one of the things that I think affects our ideas about dear old mom, okay, is that we all have this rather archetypal, greater than human impression of what mother should be, could be, wasn't, should be, etc. Okay? An archetype is like a prototype, like the matrix of something from which all those things that are similar are formed. Okay? Well, we have an archetypal understanding of God, too, most of us. Okay? And it isn't always a great archetype. Remember that we hail as a species from a belief system that used to look out at a thunderstorm or, a plague of locusts and believe that that was the divine punishing mankind. Okay? That behavioral stigma is still living. It's still alive within the consciousness of humankind. Okay? It will probably be a very long time, if you believe in time, before we get rid of that. Okay? Because again, it's there on a deep subconscious level for us. So an archetypes, that archetypal kind of thinking, okay, and our earliest awarenesses and teachings about what God is, or might be, or could do, those are with us all the time. When we couple all of that together, what we find is almost a fantasy state in the human mind about what God is. In very few spiritual teachings are we taught to erase it all and go be still. Are we taught to wash it away as best we can? That will happen just as layers of the onion peel off and find our own true awareness of what life with a capital L is all about. One of the biggest things that I would say that our teaching, that New Thought teachings, unity, divine science, religious science or science of mind, okay? One of the biggest ways in which I think we differ from current mainstream teachings is on this next slide. Can we go to the next one, Kathy? In common modern day religious teachings, we're taught that God is outside of us, that we're separate from God, and that somehow, some way, we have to live a life that is redemptive. We have to earn our way back into God's graces, just hoping and praying that at the close of this physical experience, when at the point of our demise, God will claim us and we'll get to go to heaven. Okay? From this comes yet another idea, and this is huge too. And it's from this that we understand that God wants things to be a certain way. And if and whenever they are not that way, pardon the pun, there's hell to pay. Literally. Okay? There's hell to pay. So we're taught that good is about God. And anything that we don't see as good is not God. Yet, we understand that somehow that doesn't quite wash. What about things like Hitler? What about things like the Depression? What about monsoons that kill innocent people and life? I don't know. We're going to unpack some of those questions next week. You want to be here, don't you? So, one thing that we know about Ernest is this. Very early on in this teaching, okay, can we go to the next slide, Kathy? Ernest got it that there was no division. None. Okay? That God is what I am. Okay? That doesn't make me an autocratic ruler. It makes me a part of the divine. In his book, early on, in Science of Mind, one of Ernest's students, a gentleman by the name of Reginald Armour, wrote a book called That Was Ernest. And in that book, he makes a statement about Ernest. He says Ernest had the immovable conviction that he never walked alone, that there is a light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. We find that threaded throughout all his writings. And here's something that's really interesting, especially growing up in a mainstream religious teaching. We find that truth to be nestled in the deepest recesses of the world's great religions. Somewhere. They all tell us that. Ernest in his writing tells us, all scriptures declare that man is the spiritual image and likeness of God. In his book, Living the Science of Mind, which I know some of you may have, it's actually one of the easier reads. Okay? He's not quite as lofty in that one as he is in the Science of Mind textbook. Ernest shares in that book from the Tao, without going outside his door, without looking outside his window, one sees the Tao of heaven. The farther one gets from himself, the less he knows. And there we're hearing metaphorically, looking outside the window, going outside the door, meaning looking away from the self. Of course, in Christianity, we hear it, but it isn't really taken to light. In the Bible, we're told, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and whosoever shall know himself shall find it. And from the Quran, we created man, and we know what his soul whispers to him, that we are closer to him than his neck vein. What Ernest knew, what these deep what the deep truth of our world religions is that in the beginning, there wasn't anything. At the time that time, if time really exists, started, there wasn't anything but God. So when God made the decision to create, God had only itself to create from. God thought in the world. The Word brought forth the world. Does that make sense? Does that perhaps resonate a little bit? All God had to create with was itself. And so God thought, God spoke, and the world became. The species became. The seas filled up. The skies became. People became. Man and woman became. That is the true story of Genesis. It isn't all the other stuff we've heard. That is metaphorical in nature. This is how God creates, and it is also how we are God unfolding. Now, if we have a thought, if we have an idea, perhaps we have a desire. What happens is that literally a spark of us goes out from us and becomes that which we wish to see manifest. So if I think about, I'm going to win the lottery, a spark of me goes out there to that point where I won the lottery. Okay, we're building a big church in Sylva, North Carolina. Okay, we give money to people walking in that door. Okay, if I have to pay them to change it, we will. Okay, for God's sake, do whatever you got to do, right? But, a part of me has gone forward. Did you like how much energy I put into that, by the way? When you start putting that thought with that kind of feeling and that kind of intention and that kind of energy, it makes it bigger out there. Okay, it makes it happen faster. More of me gets out there, to that point where that really exists, than if I just stand here and go, oh, I couldn't win the lottery. Okay? That's why in this teaching, we encourage people to do affirmation. We encourage folks to pray, and to pray loudly, to stand up and to pray with the whole body. One of my favorite things that I was taught by one of the icons in our movement, Kathy Hearn, was that when I pray, I can stand up like a woman of power and shout it to the rooftops and beyond, that I can speak my word to the universe and know that it's going to hear me at the level at which I am sending it out. Yeah, powerful stuff. That's how we create. That's how God creates. Now, if you go from this place today and you sit down with your neighbors at lunch or your co-workers tomorrow and you say, yesterday, at the Sunday service at OpenDoor, it was just so great. I found out that I'm God. Oh, geez, watch out. Because they might want to lock you up. There's a second part to that sentence. It's not just that I'm God. It's just that everything is. All that is. Because the only thing that could ever have been created by God is God. There's no greater and lesser. We're going to talk about that next week. That's where things get really interesting. Because we really do, in our minds, align good with God and not good with not God. And I don't know that we're going to recover from that. I don't know that we should, but we're going to try to address that next week. What all of this leads us to is the first step of what we call prayer in science of mind, spiritual mind treatment. That first step is God is all there is. That divine stuff. That force ever flowing. That which is back of. That was another one of Ernest's pet phrases. That which is back of. The absolute. The holiest of holies. That's kind of a strange term because there really is no holiest of holies because it's all holy. It's no black, white, gray. None of that. I don't think. I really don't. But that is the first step of our spiritual mind treatment. God is all there is. So next Sunday we're going to unpack that. Because that one is crazy. Like I said, when you start looking at what about Hitler? What about people like, Charles Manson? I just finished reading a book on Ted Bundy. Okie dokie then. Yeah, God is all there is. What about the horrific stuff that you see if you turn on the 6 o'clock news? Okay. It's God. I claim it. So we're going to unpack that next week. But as we go from this place, we have a little suggestion. And I'm going to ask Anna Ruth, would you mind passing something out for me in that basket? Anna Ruth is going to go around. We have little books and little pens. You can just walk around, and if folks would like one, you can take one. And I think we probably have just about enough for everybody. So it worked out perfectly. It always does. Okay. So once we get the little books all around, you've seen these books before. I like to buy stuff by the case at the dollar store and just buy them out. Okay. And do fun things with them. So you might even have one of these already. Okay. You can pass them if you want to. That's great. So, and of course you can always take a pen. We have lots of OpenDoor pens. So here's what we're going to do on our journey as we go into next week. As we move through our day, as we move through life, okay, pleasant or unpleasant, however it may be, whatever we are looking at, and everything that we can remember as we are looking at it, we are going to look at these things and we're going to go, that's God. That's divine. That's perfect life unfolding, okay? Do you understand that when we do this, we are doing something neurological, okay? I am a neuroscientist. I just don't have the credentialing, okay? And I don't want it either, thank you very much, okay? We are re-minding. We are changing stuff up here in the gray matter, okay? And changing, as we do that, the way that we look at something, okay? Tom gave us an excellent reflection earlier about looking at everything through the eyes of love. And that is exactly what we are doing when we look at the lady who was in front of me at McDonald's this morning who needed some serious driver education. And I wanted to be the one to give it to her, okay, with the front end of my car. And I said, shut up, Barbara, she's God. And I was like, okay. That's what the book is for. So when you have those, no, she the heck ain't God, okay, moments, or you do this, or you are, in a meeting with your boss and your boss says, okay, remember Lucy on Peanuts? I always wish I could make the sounds that they made as the adults talking, okay, okay, or, whatever, somebody says, to you, or even from your own little mind, okay, you can say to it, that's God, okay, even that voice is God, by the way, guys, and you can write down my response. Okay, my response to looking at the flat tire on my car when I walked out and was in a hurry was, that's God, okay? And then I thought, I'm not going back to OpenDoor Centers, it's crazy, okay? Write down what your reaction to it is, okay? It's all good. Let me trust me on that one. It's all really good, okay? I look at things and go, that's God, and that's just the you ought to hear the 4-letter words. Well, some of you have heard them, okay? I try to behave myself when I'm here on Sundays. But so as you do this actively, as you remind yourself, as you acknowledge that which is here and here and here is God, okay? Then, write down what your response is, okay? Come back next Sunday and let's laugh with each other, okay? And let's begin to look at the things, the ways in which we look at our world, and see how we can change them. Because in science of mind, this thing that we call spiritual mind treatment or prayer is really an experiential practice. It isn't just, now I lie me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. It could be that too. I have no problems with that one, okay? There's been times when the road prayer over and over probably saved my mind, okay? Really, might have saved my life. I don't know. I'll have to think about that and get back to you. But write down what happens during the course of this week and come back and let's share it and let's enjoy it and let's watch this stuff change, okay? And we'll look at prayer together.